Thank you very much, and good night to all of the Democratic Labour Party family. Good night. And a happy independence to all of you. The wonderful thing about being in the Democratic Labour Party, we wear our independence colours all the time. We're always celebrating independence. And blue and gold never looked so good. Watching folks at the parade on Friday morning, it was just a wonderful sight to see young and old, from the very little, the very old people, everyone turning out to celebrate 46 years of independence. As well we should, because we live in a wonderful country, and we should never forget it, and we should never take it for granted. And that is why we are here tonight, to ensure that you do not take for granted all the freedoms and privileges that we have come to be accustomed to here in Barbados, due in great part to the Democratic Labour Party, to what we have fought for. We know that Democratic Labour Party is the party that fought for our independence, the party that insisted on independence when all others said that it could not be done. And that was 46 years ago. And today we find ourselves in a similar position, insisting that Barbados can rise above the storm that we are facing, that Barbados can chart our own course, that we can be masters of our own destiny, and that we can make it right for our own people, regardless of what people on the outside and people on the inside, because there's some on the inside saying that we can't, but that we can do it to ensure that Barbadians continue to afford the standard and quality of living that they've become accustomed to, especially in the last 46 years. So a happy independence to all of you. Somebody said it this evening about celebrating the 50th year of independence. I know I'm looking forward to 50 years of independence, and I know we'll be celebrating 50 years of independence under the party that brought you independence, the Democratic Labour Party. But you know, as we talk about independence, and as we talk about liberty, and as we talk about freedom, I want to bring our attention to a very important issue, and that of leadership. Because while we are free, and while we have liberties and independence, leadership is a very important part of what we have here today. We would not have had independence were it not for leadership, the leadership of the now Right Honourable Errol Walton Barrow. We would not be celebrating and enjoying the freedoms here that we have in Barbados with a stable currency if it were not for the leadership of the Honourable Erskine Sandiford, then Prime Minister. And we would not be where we are today in the year 2012 if it were not for the leadership of the Honourable Frundle Jerome Stewart. And there are a lot of things that are going to come up as we come into the next election, and we're going to hear about economy, and we're going to hear a lot of things. But I want us, for me, I think one very important point, and one of the points I make when I go into my constituency, let us look too at the issue of leadership. Because our country and our government is no stronger than the leadership that we will have at the head of it. And leadership has to be very, very important. You ever notice that when a school changes the principal, how the atmosphere in the school and the behavior in the school changes whenever the principal changes? And if you go into a workplace, when the boss changes, how there's a change in the culture and the change in environment? And when Barbados moved from the Barbados Labour Party to the Democratic Labour Party, how there was a change in the atmosphere in this country when the leadership changed? Leadership is important, and the leadership sets the tone. The leadership establishes the culture from the head down. And so we cannot look at Barbados going forward unless we establish clearly what we want at the head, and in so doing, who we want at the head of our country. We want leadership who will not sell us out. We've been there. We don't want that. We want leadership that will not seek his own selfish interests. We've been there. We don't want that. And we want a leader that we can trust. That is important. We want a leader that we can trust. A leader who has stood before you, who will stand before you again tonight and tell you his plans for Barbados. And we know we can trust what he says because he is as good as his word. Integrity. That is what we want in a leader. There are others who will come to you asking for your vote, asking for your support. I ask you to examine them, weigh them in the balance. What do they bring to the table as leaders? If they do not cut it, throw them away. We do not want it. This is not the time for playing jokes. This is not a time for, and I will use a Jamaican expression, for pian leadership. This is a time for solid leadership. That is the only way that Barbados is going to make it forward. We have heard the economists telling us that although we thought that we were near the end of the recession, that we're not. We're about halfway through. You know what that means? We have to keep our hands to the plow. We have to stay focused. All of us have to stay focused. And so we have to ensure that we have leadership that can stay focused at this time. A quote I came across, it says, leadership is based on inspiration, not domination. On cooperation, not intimidation. Now weigh those two. Inspiration and not domination. Cooperation and not intimidation. When William Arthur Wood said that, it's like he was weighing the two options that we have in Barbados for leadership. And we know what we want for leadership. We want inspiration and cooperation. That is what we want. Not small, short bullies. That's not what we want for leadership. We want men who can stand tall before us and inspire us to greatness and cooperate, hold our hands in this party, hold the hands of all the sectors in this country, coming alongside the business people, the trade unions, all of the sectors in this country, inspiring them to cooperate, to put Barbados first. That is what we have in Fundle Jerome Stewart, a man who is calling all Barbadians to come on board and to work for Barbados. Under the leadership of Fundle Jerome Stewart, the cabinet of Barbados has been able to come through some tough times. Yes, we've had the economy, we've had challenges in our constituency, and like all of you in here, we've faced the death of our late leader. But under Fundle's leadership, we have been able to pick up the pieces and settle down and focus and refocus and become re-energized and move on. And move on we have, and move on we are doing, and we will continue to do. Because we are always reminded by our leader that we have a job to do. Not for us. Not for the men and women who sit in the cabinet. Not for those who sit in the parliament. We have a job to do. And not only for the people, you very precious people who put us in here, but for all Barbadians. We have a job to do for all Barbadians. And he keeps us ever focused to that task. So we need a leader with a vision for Barbados, for its people. A leader who is sober. Shall I say that again? A leader who is sober. A leader who is honest, trustworthy, with integrity. One you can trust. One who is committed to keeping Barbadian people in jobs. Not selling out what we have and who have let the chips fall wherever they may. A leader who is focused and committed on keeping Barbadians in jobs, and whose aim is to safeguard your future, the future of your children and your children's children. One thing I can say about where we are today as a government and as a cabinet, our leader has called us to focus on taking a holistic approach to the challenges that we face. That includes improving the efficiency of government. Now that's a mark of real leadership. And forgive me if I spend some time on leadership. I don't have a long time to talk, and I've thought about all the things I could say to you tonight. And a lot of the things I wanted to say, I heard my colleagues say already. But I really want you not to leave this room unless we also focus on the issue of leadership. And our leader has called us to look at taking a holistic approach to how we're dealing with Barbados, especially in this time, how we're dealing with the challenges that we face. That's the mark of real leadership, I was saying. Not just managing a situation by doing the right things at this time. But anybody can play the hand that they're dealt right now. But a leader looks not only at the hand that he has right now, at the situation he's dealt with now, but also looks down the future and sees not just what is the right, not just how to do the right things now, but how to ensure that the actions that we take now preserve and protect a future for our children and our children's children. And that is what we're doing. And sometimes you may not understand the steps that we take as a government on a day-to-day basis. But I want you to look at it holistically, as we have been called to do. We are looking at it holistically. We are looking at not just dealing with today's problems, but remembering that we're not just going to be swept out there to the murky waters, those murky waters that are engulfing the rest of the world. We're not just going to be swallowed up by the current, but we are going to ensure that we have a path charted. We may be sailing against a rough current, but we have a path and we are focused, and even though the tides are rough, we know where we are going and we are getting there. The winds may blow us slightly off, but we are getting there. We come back on track because we are focused. We have taken a holistic approach to this thing called government. We have a real plan for the future, and we're going to get there. And let me tell you about leadership. And one thing I've learned about leadership: a good leader, a real leader, is one who doesn't pay any attention to the negative media opinion. And you know we've been getting a lot of that. One who doesn't pay attention to the media opinion, who is not going to let the media tell him what to do and when and how. He listens to the public, yes, but he is not going to be swayed by the media opinion just because they have the force of the media at their disposal. He's not listening to the naysayers, and he's not listening to what I can characterize as vicious opposition that is seeking only personal aggrandizement, and dare I say, I think at the risk of social unrest. We have an opposition in this country right now that is not about Barbados. It is not about Barbadians. It is about what they can get for themselves and those related to them. And even if it causes social unrest, like what we're seeing going on in Greece, you know, all the kind of upheaval and all the kinds of you're seeing all the people hitting the streets, and all the violence that is going on, and all the, you know, the storming of buildings and the breaking of windows and all of that, because people can't take it anymore. And we have an opposition in this country that is not looking at what is best for you, and don't even begin to think that they are. They're not looking at what is best for you, but they don't care about you. They do not care what happens to Barbados. They will trample all of us underfoot just so that they can get what they want. And that is what they're doing. Look around and you will see that is what they're doing. And a real leader is one who can face all of that every day, from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to bed, and say, no, I'm keeping my eyes on what is in front of me. I'm forgetting what is behind me. I am not going to be pulled to the right or to the left by everything else that is being said. I know, I have heard, I've been given a mandate from the people of Barbados. This is where we need to go. People of Barbados, we are going with him. Come alongside. It is the only way to get where we need to go. And so because of his leadership, we have been able, as I said, we've taken a holistic approach, and we've been able to look not only at the immediate solutions. I call them the band-aid type solutions. You know, there's a problem here today, you put a little band-aid. Or I remember when I discovered duct tape. You know duct tape? Duct tape works for everything. You have a little hole in the pipe, a little duct tape. You have a little hole in that tube, a little duct tape. The fan ain't working too well, a little duct tape on this. And that is how some people want us to manage the government, a little duct tape management. But that's not how we're going to manage government. We are able now to do what has to be done in the immediate, but we're also able to craft a long-term plan. And let me tell you, our long-term plan is a long-term plan, looking at 5-10 years down the line. And we will be around to implement that plan. Because contrary to what the Barbados Labour Party is telling you, Barbadians know what is better for them. Errol Walton Barrow didn't send you to school for nothing. You are educated, you are intelligent, you have good intellect, you know what is better for you. And there's no way that we're going to listen to the foolishness that is going on around us. And so we've been able to address also the immediate problems, look at the long-term issues, but also look at the root causes. The root causes of individual poverty, the root causes of the societal ills that we're facing, and the root causes of the economic decline. It was said earlier tonight, I will say it again, because every day I sit at my ministry in front of files and I have to shake my head. The Barbados Labour Party had 14 years with lots at their disposal, and they should have left Barbados in a position that we should have been able to weather any storm. They should have left a Barbados for us that when this economic crisis hit us, we would have been better able. You know, you talk about storehouses and putting up in the barns and making things right. No, none of that. They had 14 years of good. They just raped the treasury. They raped the storehouses, and there is nothing. Barbados had to be rescued by a Democratic Labour Party who had to come and make something out of almost nothing to ensure that we can continue to eke out an existence. That's what we had to do. Make something out of nothing. As I said, even when I sit at my desk, looking at, it is this year, 2012, that we raised the minimum wage. And I said it before, we raised the minimum wage from $200 to $250 a week. Tell me that couldn't have been done 10, 12, 14 years ago. No, we have to do it now in a time like this. All like now, minimum wage should have been $350 at least. And that minimum wage is just for shop assistants. All like now, there should have been a minimum wage for every worker in Barbados. Now is the time we have to come and do this kind of thing. Child support for single mothers. Talked about it before, and I will talk about it all the time because it's important. It is important. When we debated it in the House, somebody got up and said, and it might have been the same Dugate too, got up and said, oh, it's not enough. What did they do for single parents? Nothing. And we, in a time like this, had to eke out the $50 per child. We had to eke that out. When they had plenty, they could have done it. But no, it didn't matter to them. Our Prime Minister, I talked about cooperation. He established the Barbados Action Team now, where he sits with government, where he sits with the private sector, where he sits with the trade unions. And every 2 weeks we meet and we go back to him and we report. We have to work quick time, cut through red tape to see how we can make Barbados better in the areas of growth, in the areas of efficiency and facilitating business so business can be done better, and in the area of the social safety net, how we can get welfare and other assistance to the people who need it, cutting through the red tape. That's what our Prime Minister has done. He's convened a committee and he said, come, all you all who have the expertise and the skills, come on board. Let us work together to make Barbados a better Barbados, not only for the people with the big business and the millions of dollars to come in here and invest, but for even the people who need welfare. We have to see how we can make Barbados better for them, that they can get the welfare that they need. One other point I want to make. As I said, we protected jobs. We're looking at jobs in the private sector and not privatizing. But the jobs overseas, I'm responsible for the overseas employment program. For the where you send workers to Canada and to the US and so on. I'm responsible for that program. And when I came to the Ministry of Labour, that program was almost squashed. You know why? The Barbados Labour Party administration had it to say that Bajans don't want no work overseas. And so the program was almost squashed. Since we have revived it, every day there are people coming in there looking for work. And we have gotten new jobs. Jobs on cruise liners. We've just got 2 new cruise lines come on board to give Barbadians jobs. They've come in and they've hired Barbadians. We're getting new hotels, new restaurants in Canada, because Canada is doing fairly well. I was out in Alberta. Alberta wants not just the people to work on farms, but they want skilled people, people who can operate machines, or people who can do welding and laying pipes and so on. They want those people, and we are out there getting those jobs for the people of Barbados because we care. And that is why we do what we do, because we care. And mention was made about the energy sector and what we are doing. And what we're doing in that area. Let me say this. We have an employment policy that is seeking to ensure that there are jobs through entrepreneurship, because we are facilitating entrepreneurship. Minister Todd spoke to that. That we are enhancing the ability for foreign direct investment to grow in this country, bringing more jobs. For agriculture to grow, bringing more jobs under the Honorable David Esther, so that we can get more jobs, new areas, new niche areas in agriculture and in tourism, in manufacturing, and of course we've talked about in energy. And of course we are looking now at the training of Barbadians for more jobs. As I said, there are people overseas who will give us jobs. We are looking to ensure that Barbadians are trained and ready for those jobs. And so we are working to ensure we have an employment rate that is almost 12%. It is higher than we want to see it. But let me assure you that we are working to make that number smaller. We know that it is lower than in a lot of countries in the Caribbean, but we don't pat ourselves on the back. There's not one day we sit in cabinet and say, well, it could be worse. It's 12, but it could be worse. No, we know it's 12. We want to see it come down. And everything we do, yes, we talk about foreign exchange, but what we do is not about foreign exchange. Everything we do is about ensuring that Barbadians can do what they need to do, can become who they need to become, can achieve all that they need to achieve. That is why we do what we do. That means keeping our society stable, that means keeping our economy growing, and that means getting jobs for each and every one of you who want jobs, because I know not everybody wants jobs. So I think, and from where I stand, we have been able to do more in the last 5 years to achieve the security of our people and the success of this 46-year-old nation. Under 5 tough years, more than the Barbados Labour Party has done. You didn't hear me. We have done more in 5 years to keep this economy going, to keep Barbadians in work, to try to continue to keep our economy growing, to attract more interest in investing and so on in Barbados, more than the Barbados Labour Party has done. 14 years, they have nothing to show for it. You have nothing to show for it. Why? Because they took all of it and they ran. And now they want to come back. But as I said before, and I will close on this point, let us not forget the issue of leadership. We have a solid leader with a good moral, solid foundation. A moral compass with a fixed, true north. One who knows where he is going, and one who wants to take us there. True leadership. True leadership. Let us not undervalue that. You know, some people, they never realize what they have until it's gone. But, ladies and gentlemen, we know what the alternative is. We're not guessing. We're not guessing. We've been there. We know what the alternative is. We know what the opposition has to offer. And we know that there's no way that we are going to get to the end of this recession with our sanity, our families, our society intact under what they have to offer. The only way to do it is with the Democratic Labour Party. The only way to do it is with the Democratic Labour Party. And one word for each and every one of you. I see you here on Sunday, and it really warms the heart when we stand here to talk and we feel your support. We see you here in your numbers. We see you in your colors. It really warms our heart when you are here. But you know what you want. And there's a saying that what you want, if you know what you want, what matters is not wishing for it. What matters is working for it. And you know what you want, you know where you want to see Barbados. What matters is not how hard you wish and how sore your knees get when you stay at your bed at night and pray for it. Thank you for your prayers. We need your prayers. We crave your prayers. But But ladies and gentlemen, we need you to help us work for it. Not just in here on Sunday nights. We need you out on the streets, in the highways and the byways. We need you there working for it. And the last work you need to do for us is on election day. But we'll talk more about that when we need you, each and every one of you, to come out and support. But please, help us. Come out. Work for it. Help us to work for it. Don't make us do it alone. You have a lot at stake too. God bless you.